are recording.
What
Welcome
is
to
up?
Really. Well, with Tom and Dave. Hey, Tom.
Hi, Dave.
How are you?
I'm fantastic.
Oh,
I'm
good.
great. I can't complain at all.
Yeah. Oh, good. Well, I have
Who'd listen?
I have this feeling of intestinal invigoration that comes from having possibly just gotten food poisoning.
Okay, could be a
Uh,
little IBS, little
I
irritable
think
bowel syndrome, possibly.
yeah, irritable or just cantankerous bowel syndrome.
Cantankerous bowel
I think at
syndrome
my
is a
age it's more cantankerous than
small
irritable.
derivation of this standard.
Yeah,
Okay, this is
crotchety bowel syndrome. I
crotchety
think.
bowel system is a little new to the
Yeah.
medical journals, but is also sounds intriguing and
Yeah.
potentially painful.
Yeah, it's it's the gerontological version. And everything about me is now gerontological.
I want to know
Yeah.
either how many listeners we just gained or lost with
I don't
this
well,
just fascinating tidbit of information.
I'm at that age where the first words out of the doctor's mouth, beginning of every sentence is, "Well, at your age."
Yeah.
It's even things like, "Oh, it's a nice day out." Well, for someone at your age.
Yeah. No, of
You know?
course. I'm always happy to just hear good news. You don't
Mhm.
have whatever I'm afraid I have.
Yeah.
But if the conversation doesn't start with good news,
Yeah.
then I
Or
get afraid.
I like it when they don't say, "Could you pay your deductible before we finish this session?"
Yeah. I got something.
You
I got some email of something I didn't pay. I don't
Yeah.
quite understand how all the medical stuff,
In I don't. Well, I'm Canadian,
works.
so I'll never understand it.
Somebody should take. I know, particularly as a Canadian, you should be confused.
Yeah,
It's very.
but oh, what's but
How are your
I'm
so? How are your fluids? I mean, we might as well just finish up on this. Are
good. I
you
feel
okay?
good. As again, I think a certain amount of food poisoning
Mm-hmm.
or stomach flu,
Mm-hmm.
I think is an effective stand-in for exercise and diet.
Yeah. No, you could have cool
Yeah,
hallucinations.
yeah,
It could make you sort of, in some ways, like sharper, just more
yeah.
alert to sense your senses.
Hmm.
That
And
might be helpful.
or even if I just want to look nice for an upcoming event,
Yeah.
I'll often just eat like a raw chicken.
Yeah. Some old sushi that you've
Yeah,
left on the table overnight or something.
just to be extra trim for like
Yeah.
a showbiz event.
Something a little sweaty, perhaps, that didn't quite make it to the fridge. Or
Yep.
this is terrible. I'm sorry. I'm
Oh, I
sorry
feel
that you're
oh,
not
no, it's
well.
good. It's good.
Okay, good.
All
All
right,
right.
good.
Well, do you have
All good.
this? We're recording this on near or about Halloween.
We are.
Do
Which
you
I
do
believe
you
is
partake? Are you going
of
to be
Halloween.
anything interesting?
Well, I am.
What's going on in New York? What are your plans? What is Dave Foley doing for Halloween? I want to know.
I think I'm going to do what I often do ever since my daughter became too old to trick or treat, and that
Okay.
is nothing,
Oh, come
nothing at all.
on. There
I'll
has to be
just
something cool
no.
happen. Someone cool has called you and invited you to something cool that you may
Maybe
or may
I'll
not be attending.
Nope, no one's invited me to anything.
Oh my God, this is so depressing.
Maybe I'll go down and sort of sadly walk around the village during the parade. That'll, you
That's a
know,
good, yeah,
yeah,
it's a good way to get mugged and
yeah,
or
or
roofied.
hugged, more hugged, especially
Hugged.
with
You
my
might get
career.
hugged.
Yeah,
You
or
you might get
the
hugged.
Halloween parade. Oh my God, I'll get hugged a lot.
You'll be like, this is the best Dave Foley costume I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They'll be all over
And
you.
you, what are you doing for Halloween?
We're trying to figure out. We have our dear friend Isabel. It's her birthday, and so
Hmm.
we do have to go. And there will probably be costumes involved because she is a notorious. She tends to dress up in just really aggressively, like, unattractive. Like, she's lovely human, lovely looking human, all that. But she goes with some aggressive costume that like tries to gross people out or upset them in some way. So it's always kind of a nice but somewhat awkward celebration of Halloween because she seems to be getting something out of her system. So we're going.
Hmm.
That's what
Yeah,
we're gonna attend Isabel's birthday Halloween id
yeah,
experience. That'll
yeah.
be good. And then there might be something this weekend,
She'll
but
be
I don't
she'll
have a.
be she'll be dressed as the magistrate from the Nuremberg trial. That's what.
Could I don't know if it'll go quite that. Yeah. It's sometimes I don't know. It's like usually like there's teeth missing. I don't know. There's some
Yeah,
we always try to figure out. It's usually an
yeah.
interesting psychological
I
uh,
think for me,
you
just the
know
idea of getting dressed
assessment.
up in a costume is never appealing because that's what I used to do for a living.
Yeah, and you still do. By the way, when is
You know,
Fargo coming out? I'm sure people
I
are
think
eager to know.
November 21st. I believe, and I think that's all the union will allow me to say. Uh,
Okay. Fair. Oh,
yeah,
right. Shit.
I keep
Sorry.
forgetting too.
Yeah,
No, I
the
keep
writers
forgetting.
were so, yeah, they were so, easy about it now that our strike's over.
But yeah, thanks for the solidarity.
Yeah, there you go. I'm
Um,
marching. I'm marching
yeah,
in my
I have to
mind.
get out. I have to get out and pick it more.
Yeah, I'm not going to interrogate you about your marching, but I
I'm
suspect
not
you may
dumb
have
enough.
missed a day or two.
Yeah. Um,
Okay. Well,
but
we don't
the
have to dwell on
but I guess
union
no, I
deals.
guess no, I guess we should dwell on UFOs and that sort of thing.
We can because we
Yeah.
are we are on the other side of our fantastic George Knapp series.
Yes.
I just want to first of all, I mean, what were your thoughts after that crazy wild Vegas weekend with George?
I thought, well, as we were doing it, I just kept thinking, oh my god, I've never had the chance to hear uh, the whole George Knapp story in sort of laid out in a linear fashion, and at such length. And I'm not sure that George was anticipating so much length, but
We
um,
totally took George Knapp hostage, everyone. Like I don't he didn't
yeah,
know what he was in the hotel room and just not allowed to leave.
because he was with us for about 4 hours.
Or I think he was
Yeah,
with us for like 8. I mean,
no,
he got
no, that
yes.
no, he got
Yes. Your pee breaks were 2 hours.
he
Come
was
on, he was
late.
there. We we were there. I took some too. But this man went all right, at least 6. I'll go
Yeah.
6, but I'm not going any less. We had him there for a long time.
Yeah, and he brought tons of documentation of amazing, like we had DIRDs, and I forget what DIRD stands for,
Dirt
but it's
sounds messed
but it
up.
was basically the stuff the papers that were laid out as to what the plans were for OSAP when they were starting.
Yeah. Yeah.
He had uh, confidential documents from Russia that he brought
I
back in
found
the
the Russia
'90s.
stuff. And I had heard, some of that with weaponized with Jeremy, but I just found that stuff incredible. I just found it
Yeah,
so interesting that disclosure happening during Glasnost makes so much sense because of the transparency and the sort of the walls like both literal and figurative kind of coming down, and that would be a moment where they would start to talk about this stuff. And yeah, I found that to be really compelling, um, and again, kind of absurdly underreported through no fault of George's. Just
yeah. Well,
people don't. Yeah.
because he again the the UFO subject is the cone of silence
Yeah.
when it comes to media. But I mean, he did. I know at the time that he did that. He produced a series. He did a series called UFOs: The Best Evidence
Hmm.
back in I guess back in the early '90s. And one of those episodes I remember was about the Russia trip. So I remember watching it back then.
Yeah, and I listen, and I'm sure and I'm sure it got a lot of attention then. Like with a lot of this stuff, people kind of turn to their next thing, and it kind of goes in the
Yeah.
the
Well, I think
background. And
it's like now it got a lot of attention from people who care about the subject and zero
Mhm.
attention from people who insist that it's all nonsense.
Sure, yeah. Well, I think the same machinery is in effect. I One of my takeaways from meeting him was, I mean, not just his sort of seriously, his generosity of time was
Yes.
incredible. And the fact that he was willing to put up with our nonsense for, however many hours, but it was a long time. And he was very sweet of him to bring that stuff, and really cool to get a window into his history. And I agree, like the timeline of it all is, I mean, he has been central to it all, and with
Yeah.
every kind of major player, and at the same time he has this humility, and kind of uh, I get this sense of just someone rolling this fucking boulder up this hill for 40 years,
Yeah.
and the number of times that people have said something to him and then refuse to say it again, or
Yeah.
will refuse to go public, or
Yeah.
the just this
Cancel meetings and
yeah, this Sisyphean experience of, and and then even the what he was talking about in terms of the New York Times article, and the way he kind of took one for the team because it was coming out in the New York Times, was such a sort of, it wasn't about him, it
yeah.
was about the phenomenon and sort of fighting for disclosure all these years. And I thought that was so
Yeah,
kind
I
of
guess we should
selfless and
maybe we should be more
interesting.
clear about that. Yeah, that we're talking about the 2017 New
Yeah.
York Times article by Leslie Kean and Ralph Blumenthal,
Mm-hmm.
and but that the story they broke was largely a story that George knew about, like in great detail. In
For
fact,
years.
George knew about the OSAP when it was started, when when it was founded, and knew it all the way, and had would get information all the way through uh, its tenure.
Yeah. And
You
I
know,
think, and just for those who, because I'd love for uh, our episode today to kind of sort of re-welcome in the newbies, re-welcome in anyone who's kind of just checking out UFO stuff, and we can kind of go over, I would love it to be a little bit of a primer, and just to kind of
yeah,
give
because
people sort of a window into
it's
this.
easy to get dragged into you know like I guess what you call inside baseball kind of,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which when I watch inside baseball, I get confused and bored because I don't watch baseball, so it doesn't make any sense to me. So people, yeah, it's easy to get dragged into all of the names and the various camps and
Yes, and the
the
acronyms
rivalries and
and
yeah.
rivalries. It's true. I mean, I remember my first just even starting to talk with you about it, and now it's only, I don't know, how deep are we in on this thing? To 8 months?
I
I'm
don't
not sure, but
I can't. How many episodes have we done?
I don't know. I think
I
it's
don't
we're
know.
getting up there.
Clearly, neither of us watches the
The high
podcast.
teens. I
Mm,
Yes, I mean,
mm,
I check in every now and again on some of my favorite conversations,
yep,
but I was overwhelmed completely by the number of sort of experts and how to keep track of acronyms and
yeah,
programs like that. And even just now, we were talking about OSAP. And I guess one way to think of that is just like this huge overarching UFO research that took place, funded by the government over the course of several
mhm,
years. That was
yes,
kind
yeah.
of
OSAP
very
was
impactful and very secret for a good long while.
Yep,
Um,
and it
and
had
that
well, and it was the program that had the $22 million budget that was
Yeah, it
mentioned
was
in the New York
funded
Times
by
article.
Harry
So it
Reid, the
was,
Senate Majority Leader of the
yeah,
Senate, who was also a Vegas person who knew George Knapp for years.
and it was
And
yeah,
George is
and
sort of the OG original investigator of this phenomenon. And
which
we know of Area
he was the
51
connective
and,
tissue between,
yeah, everything, all of
like
it.
Rob, like he was the one who he sort of introduced Harry Reid to the folks at Skinwalker that were doing
Right?
the
Skinwalker
NIDS,
Ranch of the famous
yeah,
history show or whatever it's on.
it was the NIDS National Institute for Discovery Science program that
Mm-hmm.
was run by Robert Bigelow and with and what's his what who was Colm Kelleher was involved with that.
Uh-huh. And James Lakatsky.
Yeah, so he set those people up, and and Harry Reid heard about that through them, and then that got him interested, and he got James Lakatsky to set up OSAP,
Mm-hmm.
which later spawned ATIP, which was run by Lou Elizondo, who was featured prominently in the New York Times article in 2017. So
So, if you're just joining us, the UFO phenomenon is being actively researched by your government. Whatever you may think of this topic or subject matter, or how skeptical you are or a believer you are, what's important to note is that the media's attention aside, your government is paying very close attention. Now, it doesn't
yeah,
always want to tell you that it's paying very close attention,
no, it
but
wants
it
to
is
behave like it's doing the opposite.
it wants to sort of kind of push it aside, but it is actively involved. And in fact, there is a new book that actually we were talking about with George Knapp that he wrote with two of the folks that Dave was just talking about, Colm Kelleher and James Lakatsky. James Lakatsky is a physicist for the
Yeah,
Defense Intelligence Agency
yes, and rocket scientist as
and a
well.
rocket scientist. And this book is entitled Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Program, called Initial Revelations. And it's a sequel to a book they wrote, all three of these gentlemen, because George Knapp is also an author, that was called Skinwalkers at the Pentagon. Now, one might think that this is the kind of thing like, oh, okay, it's a UFO book. Somebody, you might find it in the New Age section, and you might find it in the New Age section. But what I find so interesting about where we are in this conversation now and with this phenomenon, do you know who published this book, Dave? I know you do, but
Larry Flint.
You might think Larry Flint could have published
Well, he's
inside
dead.
the
He's dead,
U.S.
isn't he?
government.
Yeah.
Yeah. Who? No, I think he's
Is he
has
still alive?
passed on.
Yeah.
Well, if he is, he's soon to not be any longer alive.
But his DNA is everywhere he ever placed.
Everywhere. Oh my God, what happened? Where did we just go? Stop it!
All right, but who published this? Who published this crazy UFO book?
I'm glad you asked that, Dave, because it's actually published.
News of the World?
Not News of the World, not Weekly World News. The Defense Department of our very own U.S. government, the Defense Department published this book.
Which is, I didn't even know they published books.
I didn't know they published books, and I didn't know they published UFO books. But this is their program they paid for, and they put it through 12 months of scrutiny.
Of the DOPSR process.
The DOPSR process, which is like we're scanning this for classified info, and we're going to take it out. And yet, we are still stuck with like this book, and I'm about halfway through, but it is, it's covering all the UFO stuff they studied and cases and injuries to human beings and attacks on indigenous people in Brazil, on an island in Brazil, and cases of human UAP contact, of damage to people, and the study of these discs and how they respond. To me, like, this is where we are. Your government is publishing books that is, essentially UFO disclosure. And I haven't even gotten to the bit where they talk about the fucking ship that they walked in.
Well, that's the amazing thing, which George told us when we were talking to him in Vegas, and also George and Jeremy Corbell on their fantastic Weaponized podcast, which everyone should watch.
You should both like and subscribe Weaponized.
Yeah.
And you should like and subscribe to Really with Tom and Dave at YouTube, because we always forget to say that.
Yeah.
And
or
you forget,
like, subscribe to it. Even write a review. And
ask us questions.
Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on the social medias.
Those Instagrams, we've always got good shit there. There's stuff on, there should be stuff everywhere on TikTok and whatever. And we're also available wherever fine podcasts are available. But you got to like us and subscribe. And we'd love to sort of have a dialogue. Tell us what you like, what you don't like, less what you don't like. If you want to go after Dave, that's fine. Me, I'm a little sensitive, so I would keep me out of it.
Nails.
Yeah, he's got an incredible Teflon skin. I'm, very sensitive. It'll keep me up nights. But we do want to hear what you think, and then we'll happily sort of, we'll gear towards that. I'm all for audience participation.
Yes, but now...
sorry, I cut you off. Yes.
No, I was just saying, on the Weaponized podcast this last week, George and Jeremy had Colm Kelleher and James Lakatsky on as guests, which is a very rare event. Those guys, especially James Lakatsky, does not do a lot of interviews.
He's a serious intelligence officer type.
Yeah, but they discussed on there, and Jeremy kept trying to push Lakatsky to go further. But basically, the book that you have in your hands is the account as far as Lakatsky and Kelleher can tell it without going to jail. So they very finely crafted every statement in there to go exactly as far as they could go. And so in the interview, of course, George and Jeremy very valiantly were trying to get him to go a little further. And they steadfastly stuck to, we can tell you exactly what we said in the book, but we can't go beyond it. But what he said in the book, which is that at least one incident that Lakatsky can verify and Colm Kelleher can verify of the U.S. government having possession of a UFO, of a flying saucer, and that they were able to breach the interior of the flying saucer and examine it. and that they found that it had no engines that they could discern, no means of propulsion, no flight surfaces, no welds, no rivets, no indications of of manufacture that
Yeah.
they could understand.
Yeah. How's this thing
Um,
work?
and that they got and that people got inside this thing and were able to examine it. So that's again another top high ranking intelligence official, um, along with David Grush and along with was his name Martin Nell, who confirmed Grush, and about 30 other people who have also corroborated Grush in private testimony to the ICIG and Congress. Um, that so this is just one more voice, one more very very credible voice saying that UFOs exist. We have retrieved them.
Yeah.
We are studying them, and it's this is not this is not just some crazy story, you
And
know.
I think, I think meaningfully, he did not, as some parties have tried to kind of distance from Grush or whatever. He didn't. He was. I mean, he was in his fashion, because this guy was completely sort of a squirrely interview. Oh my lord. Um, he was ducking and dodging all over the place, but he didn't dismiss Grush at all, and he
No,
was like, "Yeah, sounds pretty credible to me." And he was saying, and I vouched
yeah,
for Jay Stratton. Jay Stratton, who was the super like admiral level intelligence guy at the Defense Intelligence Agency, who had kind of
hmm
in great anonymity sort of been a part of all of these programs over the past 20 years,
he's
if
the
not
Zelig
more.
of UFOs.
He is the zealot. He was always there and never identified. But this is not to sort of inside baseball anyone. It's more to just be like, if you almost from my part of getting frustrated that things aren't happening faster, or it seems like there are step backs, or it seems like, oh, this, they're doing their old tricks again, or they're doing their old Project Blue Book shit with this Arrow program, which is clearly just sort of a PR thing to keep the media off the main trail. We still have this rolling disclosure happening at a level and pace unprecedented in the history of mankind, of revelation after revelation from the highest levels of the intelligence world, that we've
hmm
got stuff. We've got stuff
Yeah,
that
we have machines.
we have stuff from
We have
other places that are not
yeah
ours, and
machines and biologics. Um,
biologics, and we have legislation. Laws are being written now. There's two or three and that have gone into the defense
yeah,
budget
yeah.
over
Well,
the
this yeah
past
because
2
there was
years that are meaningful pieces of legislation directly related to UAP phenomenon.
yeah
Why would that be happening?
I know. Was it
Why
like
would they be
it's
wasting
like
their time?
because it was like 2 years ago they wrote the whistleblower
Yes,
legislation, right? Was it a year or 2 years? I think it's 2 years ago.
two
So that
years
was the
now, I think.
first. That was the first big legislation that came out of the revelations following the 2017 New York Times
Mm,
article
yeah.
and the release of the Tic Tac video and the gimbal video and the Go Fast video. Those are the three videos, and I'm still astonished that so many people don't know those videos exist. To me, it's like it's
Yeah,
like
and we talk about them like Bajung, Bajung.
I
They're
know.
very meaningful, sort of in the mythological canon of all of this, but
Yeah.
they're
To me,
not
it's like
myths.
yeah. To me, it's like you've never heard of Sergeant Pepper's.
I
Um,
know, I know. These are the
um,
greatest hits. These are the UAP greatest hits.
yeah, but yeah, those videos. If you haven't seen them, they're easy to find. You can
Hmm.
just look them up on the New York Times
Just look
website.
up just look up Tic Tac. It's a 2004
Yeah.
grainy video, although it is very clear that there is much better footage of it that is being kept from us, that we are told. But it was taken by essentially Top Gun pilots, kind of
Yes. Yes.
the most
Chad.
reliable witnesses you can probably find on Earth.
Well, there were I guess four F-18s went out
And
one piloted by David Fravor, the other piloted by Alex Dietrich, were the first two that went out and
and
saw
remind me,
the
Dave, was this off Catalina or was it off San
yeah
Diego?
just off I guess it was I think it was, yeah, I guess it was off San Diego.
I think it was in San Diego,
Yeah,
and it was a phenomenon that was not just observed by these two pilots, but was observed multiple times by multiple pilots and by an
multiple
entire
radar
radar ship.
systems. Yeah,
Yeah.
multiple radar systems, airborne radar systems, shipborne on the was it the for the Princeton, I think was their radar ship accompanying the USS Nimitz.
Hmm.
Um, and so you had like two pilot, and each plane you have two aviators. You have their
Hmm.
weapon systems, or WISO, the
Look
weapon
at you.
systems operators behind them.
Nice.
And so you had those two. Then two other jets went out. I think it was two other ones. Maybe it was. I think it's usually two go out. But piloted by Chad Underwood, um, who captured the actual forward was the forward-looking infrared
Hmm.
footage on the FLIR footage of the Tic Tac, and tried to lock on it. Um, and he's the one who had his radar jammed by the Tic Tac,
Hmm.
um, which is a pretty sophisticated technology to jam the radar on a FA-18 fighter
I
jet.
think one of the most notable there's a few things, and we talk about this in our Jeremy Corbell interview, one of our first episodes. We talk about the Tic Tac with Jeremy, and it was it when they first came upon it, it looked like they thought a plane had crashed, right? Because it appeared something was under the water of size, like that the maybe 747 size, something under the water
Yeah,
bubbling, and then
yeah.
this smaller white object, which is Tic Tac shaped and colored, began to sort of respond to the planes and being seen and flew around
Yeah,
these planes with impunity in our
yeah.
most secure airspace that
Well,
exists. You
yeah,
got our
Dave.
most
Yeah,
delicate and vital technology, um,
yeah.
and it
You
was
had
just
David Farrer, who was the pilot, who was the commander of the Black Aces unit, which was like the top. They're
that sounds good. That
the
sounds
top
like
of the Top
badass.
Guns. It's the
Yeah.
closest you get to Maverick, to Tom Cruise in real life,
Yes.
and he's not just a Top Gun pilot. He's the commander of all the other Top Gun pilots on the USS Nimitz. He's the highest ranked officer amongst that group. And so he's the one who and again, Alex Dietrich, she's his wingman, flying the other FA-18, and she stays at height. I think she stays up around 20,000 feet in elevation and circles, like, observing. So she's got like what they call a God's eye view of it, and Fravor decides he's going to engage. He basically says, "I'm going in." And so he dives down towards it, because it's down just above sea level, and he dives down towards it, and it starts matching all of his movements, starts mirroring him. So as he's going along, it's like going along the other way, and like, kind of countering him. So he decides to cut across the circle, I guess, to cut it off. And when he does, it quickly adjusts and flips towards him, and then just disappears like a bullet. And he says it's just disappeared and was gone. So you got so you've got
And
four
before you,
experts
where did
watching
it
this.
go? Where did it go?
Well, in about a minute later, I think it was, they got a report that it had showed up at their cap point, which is like a rendezvous point for the mission. That is a top secret location, top secret altitude and grid point on the map. Um, it showed up there like a minute later, which was 60 miles away.
Yeah, it's like this otherworldly kind of,
Yeah,
you know, sort of playful fuck you to
yeah,
the to our entire military,
yeah,
institution. It's in secure airspace and bouncing around, and if anyone tries to convince that was China or Russia, first of all, I think what's happening in Ukraine will dispel any I thought that this was possibly Russia,
yeah,
and I
yeah,
think it's unlikely, to say the least, that China's been keeping this a secret. This was a no propulsion, no visible means of keeping itself aloft, no
yeah.
sound, no vapor trail, no anything, and kind of like This is like sort of the modern day Roswell, right? I mean, it's become that sort of ingrained as like the
Well,
Tic Tac is sort
it's
of like
it's the most important, I think, the most important sighting for many reasons. One is just the level of documentation that's on it, and the incredible credibility of the six witnesses that I know that.
yeah. Check out 60 Minutes Tic Tac if you're
Yeah,
interested in some
yeah, and you
really
can see Fravor and Alex Dietrich interviewed on that, and then and it's like the objects were being caught on radar for like a week before this, but they were busy, so they didn't go and check it out.
right.
But for like a week before this, they were getting these radar trackings of objects coming in from above 80,000 feet, which is essentially above that. Pretty much the next stop is space, um, and nothing flies that high. We don't have anything that flies above that height. Even like even the spy planes don't go up above that. So they were dropping down from 80,000 feet. They were going to just above sea level, like a foot above sea level, in under a second.
That's fast. It sounds
Yeah.
fast to me.
Yes, it's many, 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 many times the speed of sound. I think there's something like 30 Mach 30 or something
Okay.
he was traveling at, and so they're seeing this and they're going, well, that's not possible, and it's going on for quite a while, and they're seeing dozens of these things, um, and so finally they have a little gap in the train. They say, well, let's. I think they use the term, let's vector some pilots out there. I like,
I'm liking your
it's
terminology. It's
yes,
sexy.
yeah. And so they call up David Fravor and say we have a real world. I think what did they say, real world vectoring or
They
something
were
like
on
that.
a training mission, so they
Yeah,
didn't have weapons on their
no
plane at the
weapons.
time.
No, they didn't have weapons. They weren't even wearing pants because it was just a training mission. Very loose rules on those.
It's because it keeps them in a feeling of vulnerability
Yeah.
that should be maintained when you're up there.
But so they're told we're switching you to a real world mission, and they're going, oh, maybe they're going to use this to run down some drug smugglers, is what
Yeah.
they were thinking. But then when they arrive, they see this white cross under the water of turbulent water, and this thing buzzing around above it, and as David Fravor testified in front of Congress under oath, uh, he said that this was not something we had then. It's not something we have now. It's not something we're likely to have in 10 or 20 years. And as he described it, he said this was something beyond our material science. Because not only, but like if the inertial forces, not only would if anyone was inside this craft, they would have been turned to soup.
Hmm.
Uh, but the anything we know of, just the craft itself would have been torn to shreds.
Yeah.
It would have been torn to shreds or melted through from the friction of the air of our atmosphere. The speeds that it was moving at would have incinerated it. Anything moving that fast within the atmosphere would have so much friction from molecules of air that it would burn up.
So for the dubious at home, perhaps there are some dubious people, and that's fine, and it's good to be a questioning human. A couple things. One, this is a completely documented, confirmed by the Department of Defense and by the Navy that this was an object in space that we're talking about.
Yes.
This was not a glitch on the radar. This was an actual object in space interacting with our
Yeah.
aircraft. And then, just as amazingly, the head of essentially the Top Gun, the top pilot on Earth, essentially the guy who runs, the Tom Cruise camp of Top Gun, testified under oath to Congress that this was not something we have, or will have anytime in
And
the
no one else has it.
epoch, and nobody else has it.
Yeah.
So,
And he also said very clearly, and if this was aggressive, we would be absolutely powerless to defend against it. And
right,
and he
this
also
is
said,
one of
yeah,
thousands
if
of
another
cases of
nation,
this.
yeah, and if another nation gets hold of this technology and is able to develop it, reverse engineer it, we will be completely vulnerable to whatever nation gets that technology.
Mm-hmm.
So if you think it's this is a Russian, and remember this happened in 2004,
Yeah.
and it's not like the military. They may not have talked about it. They may not have talked about it to any of the people who witnessed it, but it was investigated. It was investigated by OSAP.
Yes.
Um, um, in fact. So it was investigated by the military, and from 2004, they tried to figure it out, and they still haven't. No one has figured out, no one has explained in any mundane way what that Tic Tac was and how it was capable of doing the things it could do. So the people who go, oh, it's top
The
secret
balloon.
U.S.
The balloon.
Yeah, or it's top secret U.S. program. It's not, because I don't know how many times like fighter pilots have to come forward and say, no, we don't do that. We don't test top secret programs in a training area for our fighters.
That
Because
would make
that would,
sense
because
because they would want to kill it and destroy it, and or be killed and destroyed.
they would, it would be risking killing our own soldiers trying to defend against it, or destroying whatever this incredibly great new product is.
Mm-hmm.
So they said it never happens. That's not how the military works. They have places to test top secret stuff, and that's where they do it. They do it all the time. And occasionally, if something gets seen by regular forces, they have a debriefing program, and basically their people are told roughly what they've seen and that they should keep quiet about it. And but it's there's protocols and there's processes that people go through if it is an actual black project, a
Mm-hmm.
top secret bit of technology. And the other thing to consider is people say, well, there's all these, like the stealth bomber. We didn't know about that for years. But every single top secret bit of technology that has come along has always been, especially as aircraft go, has always been nothing more than an incremental improvement on previous
Sure.
aircraft.
Yeah.
And in fact, there's nothing flying in our arsenal or any other arsenal on the planet that fundamentally diverges from what the Wright brothers flew.
Sure.
Basically, we're still doing exactly what the Wright brothers did. Creating lift through you know by having a difference in pressure above and below the wing through an airfoil
Mm-hmm.
at with a certain amount of propulsion. You need propulsion and you need lift. So you need lifting surfaces. So the stealth bomber, the U-2 spy plane, all are basically fundamentally exactly the same thing that the Wright brothers flew.
It's I myself need to remind myself. It's easy, like we get into this and we start like thinking about, oh well, there was this just thing that happened on Twitter or X or whatever. So and so said something, or some congressperson became frustrated, or some meeting didn't happen. If you're following this stuff on a daily, hourly basis, it's easy to kind of get lost in the weeds of all of this. And it's important to both remind ourselves, it's important to remind the audience and anyone new to this that if you go and look into the Tic Tac event, it is the modern day Roswell. It's sort of where it is a good ground zero. You could pick a few, but it's a good ground zero to start with, because
Mm-hmm.
from the Tic Tac, you then had some heavily funded UFO investigative programs take place, and you essentially then have this, and these were all happening very secretly, and then it was all kind of given public light, through this 2017 New York Times article, and now what we're dealing with, call us crazy, but we're not making this shit up. This is all happening right now. The government feels like there's some kind of like Swiss cheese effort to kind of sort of keep some of it back, while there's also very concerted efforts to drag out this information and light, because it seems to go much deeper than Tic Tac, and it seems to now be very fundamentally about whether or not the government is keeping UFOs, saucers, secret from us, and programs that are secret access programs that have
Mhm.
probably been around 50 years that seem to be extremely difficult to find.
Yeah,
Um,
and are likely illegally funded.
well, yeah, because these black budgets, you've got what they were talking about 30 billion unaccounted for a lot of these things that they just kind of disappear into this network of covert programs, military programs,
Mhm.
a lot of contractors getting very, very rich.
Yeah,
These bloated defense programs and not a lot of oversight. The oversight efforts are kind of laughable.
yeah.
Um,
Well, yeah, yeah,
and it would
and
be
this
easy. And let's just to be clear, like because I have to remind myself, like I'm like, how the fuck? I mean, after all this, how the fuck do they keep this secret? Like, if there's something in a garage, in a hangar, in some Air Force base or some lot, like how do they keep this secret? And then you
oh,
just think about like where does like the money just disappears into
yeah.
these.
Well, that's the thing. People confuse the government with the military.
Okay, what do you
Right?
mean?
Well, people always say, "Well, the government can't keep secrets. There, everything leaks from the government." And yeah, but that's not true of the military. They keep secrets really well.
Yeah.
They keep secrets for forever, and because they're scary. You
Well,
know,
they want
and
their shit and they don't want to tell. And there's only a few like
yeah,
liaisons to Congress, right? I mean, there's only a few
eh,
committees, a
well,
few people
yeah,
that get to talk, right? Like
yeah.
head to head with them. Otherwise, they're separate, just sort of seemingly
Well,
separate branches.
one of the things we're finding out from Grush is that there is essentially no oversight
Hmm.
of a lot of what's going on at all because they've been subverting oversight. That's one of the aspects of his whistleblower complaint is that there is an illegal obstruction of oversight, and that when everything comes to light, there's a good chance that there's a lot of people who will go to jail for very long periods of time for crimes they've committed to keep these things secret. And you also know that first off, there's just a code within the military. People follow orders.
Hmm.
People maintain their secrecy.
Hmm.
So military can and can keep things secret pretty well. And then, of course, on top of that, you have to also point out that that even then, it really hasn't been kept a perfect secret because we all know about all of this.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. It's
You
like so
know?
much stuff is actually leaking out. And again, like call us fucking crazy. We're not the ones that wrote whistleblower legislation. Obviously, Congress felt
Yeah,
compelled
yeah,
to write legislation not for just all whistleblowers, not for just
yeah,
any military whistleblower. They
yeah,
wrote legislation specifically
yeah,
for UFO whistleblowers
yes,
because they found it credible enough and important enough to make it illegal for reprisals on people that
yeah.
want to say,
And
"Hey, we're keeping secrets and UFOs in hangars somewhere."
then you got Chuck Moon Age Daydream Schumer writing
Right.
flaky legislation
Yeah. Flaky
to
old Chuck Schumer, majority leader of the Senate. Right.
yeah.
Go on.
So he's writing legislation that will, if it passes, and it looks like it's going to, and he's written it with, I guess, five other senators, bipartisan support
Marco
on it.
Rubio,
Yeah.
Kristen Gillibrand, et
Yeah.
cetera, and so forth.
So, and it states that in its cover page that the American people have a right to know the truth about non-human intelligences.
Yeah,
That's what
and
it
then
says that on the cover page.
and it proceeds to say non-human intelligence is, I think, about 17 times.
20, I think 24 times. Yeah. And
So,
it invokes eminent domain, which is the government's power to take property from citizens and corporations of it says of any materials and biologics pertaining to non-human intelligence.
so Dave, are you making that up?
No, I'm not making it
Are
up.
you making that up? Are you making it
No,
up that Chuck Schumer is writing UFO legislation about bodies and about non-human intelligence and
and
ships kept
craft.
in secret
Yeah.
places? So you're
Yes.
not making that up. That actually
No.
happened.
Yes. It's
I just want to
legislation.
clarify. Like
It's
we're not the fucking
legislation.
crazy people. This is crazy times. We're not crazy.
No.
That if you're dubious out there, like this is actually underway.
Yeah.
Chuck
Not
Schumer
paying
had a little
attention.
press conference and he
Arguably,
talked.
not paying attention to this is crazy.
Yeah, I mean,
It, and,
I
and well, at least,
I got
or I
other
should
shit I
say,
could do.
I would say, uh, not paying attention to the UFO issue is a kind of pathology. And it's not an
Yeah.
accidental pathology. It's a pathology that's been finely nurtured and architected
Yeah.
by the U.S. Intelligence and military forces.
Let me ask you another question. Why would Chuck Schumer waste his time? Which I assume is pretty valuable. There's a lot of
Mm,
neediness in the government, right? Like there's lots of.
yeah.
So why would he waste his time writing UFO legislation for the defense budget?
Well,
Um,
obviously, it's because Republicans and Democrats love getting together and cooperating on legislation.
yes,
It's just
yeah.
something they do for fun every now and again. They
It
they
just
get
happens
together and say,
all the
"Hey,
time.
let's come up with some unanimous legislation
Yeah,
um, that we can all vote for, just because feels so good
right.
to
At a
agree on
time when
everything.
democracy is on the line, when we can't even agree on democracy or elections,
Yes,
when we
yeah,
can't agree on
we can't
basic
agree that the
the
president is the president.
the most basic institutions are in question because the parties are that in such a hateful death
Yes,
spin. And yet, what brings them and unites them is this issue.
yes,
This
the urgent issue of
of you
UFOs.
of fucking visitors from somewhere in our atmosphere and their technology is around us
Yeah,
and fucking with our military. So,
yes, and dwarfs anything we're capable of technologically
yeah.
as
And
a
I
human
think
species.
it is important to realize that the Tic Tac is not an isolated event. There are thousands of these events that have taken place around our military, and hundreds of witnesses to
Yeah,
UFOs around our nuclear sites, and they
yeah,
seem to
which
have. And I guess
yeah.
if you think about it, I mean, if you think about another civilization, or if you think about another race, they'd be curious about that shit. Like they wouldn't
Well,
necessarily want to check in on like, catch up on friends or, no offense, kids in the hall. They're just, they're going to want to look at our nuclear secrets.
well, and here's the thing. Yeah, there's that at least going back to the 1940s. There's been a clear connection between UFOs and nuclear energy, nuclear
Right.
weapons,
Yeah.
um, and which is maybe that's a good time to expand a little bit on kind of one of the great events of modern UFO lore, which is Roswell, because
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people maybe watched the TV show Roswell,
Mm-hmm.
and certainly a lot of people have heard about Roswell, this sort of kitschy town with their funky little museums and
Yeah.
their
They probably have some
McDonald's that
gift
looks like
shops
a
by now.
spaceship, and yeah, and I think the notion of Roswell as this kitschy little hick town
Mm-hmm.
that's making a lot of money off of this UFO silliness with the green skinned alien faces in all the windows of all the shops, um, but that image is false because the 509th Bomber Group is stationed outside or was stationed outside of Roswell. It was the first nuclear bomber wing in the world. At the time, it was the only nuclear bomber wing in the world. It's where the Enola Gay was parked after dropping the weapons on Japan, after dropping the nuclear bomb on Japan. Um, and it was so at the time, uh, the base, the 509th, was the most important military site on the planet.
Hmm.
It was the most secure military site on the planet. Also, probably one of the most spied upon military sites on the planet by the Russians, by Soviets. They had, you know, so they were trying to find out what was going on there because they were trying to, get intelligence to build their own bomb.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so, and so when something crashed near the most important military site on the planet, they sent out the man in charge of security for the most important
I
military
would.
site on the planet,
That's what I would do.
a guy
Yeah.
named Jesse Marcel. They sent him out,
You
Um,
don't send out like the guy that goes gets coffee,
yeah,
right? Like
you
when
don't send out.
something
Yeah, hey,
crashes,
yeah, they don't get Gomer Pyle
they
going
don't
out.
get Gomer. They don't find some schmuck. They're gonna pick a pretty important person to go
Yeah,
look at this crash. Correct?
yeah, they pick the man whose job it is to make sure that the site of the only nuclear bombs on the planet, that military wing, that flight
Hmm.
wing, those planes that are there equipped and ready to drop more nuclear bombs.
Yeah.
They weren't. It wasn't like we dropped them on Japan and said, "Well, all done with that."
No, this is some cold, heavy duty Cold War times.
Yeah, and so they sent out Jesse Marcel, who was in charge of security for the base.
He sounds important.
Very important, very trained man. He was also involved with like orchestrating the bomb testing at Bikini Atoll. So and very important, and even after the Roswell incident, got promotions. By the way,
Hmm.
so you got to bear
I
that in
might
mind.
understand. I might know why.
Yeah, but at the time, so he goes out and he picks up some stuff. He sees a huge debris field. He said it's just a gigantic debris field, as he later described it when he was
Hmm.
free to do so. Um, and he picks up some stuff that he actually takes home to his family and shows it to his kid, Jesse Marcel Jr. And shows him this. As he reports, he showed some this sort of foil-like metallic material that no matter what you do, if you crumpled it up, it immediately expands back out into its former shape.
It's like
That you
Batman
can't
shit.
that you
Okay.
can't drive a nail through it. You can't burn it with a torch. You can't do anything to damage it. It's impervious to anything.
Okay.
Uh, a metal I-beam that you couldn't dent or damage that weighed absolutely nothing, with some kind of hieroglyphics on it. So he had all this material that he showed to his
He had shit with
family.
hieroglyphics on it.
Yeah, yeah. There was a famous an I-beam that had some sort of hieroglyphics on it, but he said it was some form of metal, but it was way stronger than steel, and it weighed absolutely nothing. And so he has this material, and he goes back to his base, and he reports what he has seen, and he reports that there is a downed flying saucer in this field, and there's a huge debris field, and
Obviously, in his job, he would have no idea what ships look like or planes or anything
no,
because he has such an unimportant job
yeah,
that he would not be at
yes,
all capable of being able to identify something as a disc versus a airplane versus a
yeah,
boat versus whatever anything that fell out of the sky or perhaps, and I'm sure you'll get to this, a balloon.
yes. So
Go
he
ahead.
gets
Sorry.
so he gets back, and he reports that he has seen a debris field of a flying saucer, and I
Hmm.
believe his uh,
That was
uh,
sarcasm, by the way.
yeah.
Just
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if you know what that shit is,
Oh,
but
I have
I
a
was being
I have a
sarcastic.
famous sketch about it.
That's true. Look
Um,
who I'm talking
but
to.
the and then I guess an officer above him, I forget his name now, but decides to proudly, because at this point, flying saucers are in the public mind,
Hmm.
ever since Kenneth Arnold saw like six boomerang shaped objects flying over Mount Rainier just a few months earlier. So everyone's talking about flying saucers. So his commanding officer is very proud that they have one. And again, at this point, no one knows where the flying saucer. They might be Russian at this point. No one really knows. But he reports that they've got a downed flying saucer. He's proud of it. They call the local newspaper. The radio station announces it. It's in the headlines. People who you can look up those that the newspaper headlines from that day from Roswell, and it's the next day that is it Roger General Ramey, who is the commander of Ros of that base. He decides to change the story and says that no, it was a mistaken identity. What they actually found was a downed weather balloon,
Those fucking weather balloons, man.
and they brought the press in, and he forced Jesse Marcel to pose with debris from a weather balloon, like
Mm-hmm.
foil paper,
Remember
wooden
those
stick,
promotions that he got,
rubber.
right?
Yep. So there's a picture of him posing, basically looking up at the camera like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Silly him.
yeah.
Silly him.
So what would normally happen, I think, is if the head of security for the most important military base in the world misidentified a weather balloon as a flying saucer, normally he would lose his rank. Probably
Mm-hmm.
he would probably be disciplined. He would
Mm-hmm.
probably, yeah, he might go all the way down to being a lowly enlisted man again.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened instead was he later got promoted.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, like, why would you promote that idiot who couldn't
Mm-hmm.
tell a
I
weather
don't know.
balloon from a spaceship?
I'm curious of what the hieroglyphics are doing on the weather balloon.
Yeah.
Do we have a need for hieroglyphics on weather balloons? I don't.
Well, everyone they like to do Egyptian themed, like the
If
Egyptian theater
if it
down
lands,
in Hollywood.
yeah. If it
People loved
lands in
Egypt was big.
Cairo,
Everyone loved King Tut in
yeah,
those days.
sure, it would have been fun to put something together. Was that Yul Brenner's time? I don't know, but
Yeah. But so they claim it's a weather balloon. They claim that their head of security is incapable of determining the difference between a flying saucer and a weather balloon, and still they give him promotions. And and also they close off they cordon off the entire area with trucks, and
because weather balloons are terribly scary.
yeah, they go around, they tell all the civilians to get out of there and not to talk about this, and you didn't see anything, and stay clear of this, and they threaten, dozens and dozens of civilians reported being threatened by the military and told to shut up, and that they never saw anything.
Yeah, because weather balloons are fucking
Oh
scary
yeah,
as shit, and it's like if
yeah,
people got to
and
know that shouldn't know where their rain is being detected from.
yes, and again, huge crews of military sent in to very secretly pick up all of this debris,
Mm-hmm.
and apparently weather balloons aren't that uncommon on military bases.
No, they
Um,
probably launch a
Use them,
few.
yeah, to monitor what's it called, weather.
Yeah, so
Um,
there's a chance this man, our security friend,
yeah,
would be able to identify a weather balloon.
yes, and traditionally, what you do when one comes down is like a guy in a pickup truck goes and gets it.
You don't have the flatbeds and
And and you don't
squads of military and threats and
you don't fly it all secret under top secret coverage to Wright Patterson Air Force Base, or back
right.
then it was just called Wright. Was it just Wright Airport Base,
I'm not sure when
or was
Patterson
it just
came into the
Patterson?
whole
Yeah,
thing. That's a
yeah, it
little
was. Yeah,
above my pay grade.
yeah. This is before it was Wright Patterson, but that's what they sent. So all of this debris gets sent to Wright Patterson, which in coming years would become the home of Project Blue Book,
Mhm.
and then many years later be in the congressional district of what's his name,
Mike Turner,
Mike Turner,
congressman from Ohio,
who's
who
pushing against
I'm
disclosure.
sure totally coincidentally,
Yeah,
absolutely coincidentally,
yeah,
uh, seems to have decided that Grush's testimony is not worth hearing just because it's kind of hearsay and just people told him shit, and we should
mhm,
really stop listening to David Grush
yeah.
and generally not pass any UFO legislation because it might embarrass the Defense Department.
DOD. And the other thing we
Yeah.
should also remember about Jesse Marcel is that years later, when he was retired from the military after a very successful career, he did a pretty extensive interview for the show In Search Of with Leonard Nimoy,
Love that.
and in which he's on camera interviewed and very clearly states that, yeah, what came down in the weather balloon was a cover story, that it was not a weather balloon, and he clearly states it was not from this planet. He said it was not human technology that he saw and that they recovered. So that man, came out and told the truth about it towards the end of, as he was an older man, and there's video of him telling his story, and there's no reason to disbelieve him. There's no advantage to him Uh,
There's no incentive for so much of this disclosure. So much of this disclosure
mhm,
involves people taking unbelievable risks,
yeah,
certainly to their kind of personal integrity, their credibility, their careers. There is so little fucking incentive for people to come forward. It's only bad shit that happens. It's just
yeah,
like you put
yeah,
yourself in a target site, especially in the government.
mhm,
There's no upside.
yeah.
That
Well, then, yeah, because you also have a guy named Philip Corso who had a really stellar military career as in both as an intelligence officer and he was part of Eisenhower's National Security Council. He was a liaison with the Vatican during the 40s, trying to stop what they called the rat lines, which were the networks trying to smuggle Nazi war criminals out of Europe. So he was a liaison to the priest at the Vatican who was helping to investigate this, who later became the Pope, Pope Paul VI, I think it was.
full
Um,
script.
yeah, and then
Note to
Corso,
self.
yeah, and of course, and then so then after that, and Corso was also involved with the Korean War, trying to monitor and assess numbers of American and Ally prisoners of war in Korea,
Okay.
and determine the conditions of those pilots. That was his job during the Korean War, and
So
then in
this
the
guy's the real deal. He's a
yeah,
serious fellow.
yeah, and then they in the 60s. It was what's his name, General Trudeau, um, who gave him a job of. He gave him this filing cabinet. Said, "Yeah, we're gonna send this filing cabinet over. You open it up, have a look at it, and see what you think of it." And he gets this filing cabinet. It's full of a lot of weird objects, like some things that look sort of like wires and stuff, and little sort of chips and stuff. And and he's given the job basically this was debris from Roswell. He was told, and that his job was to try to figure out what some of this stuff might be, and try to funnel it to people who might be doing research on similar things. And so that's his story. And again, a guy with an incredibly long and storied career in the military. Um, uh, had the highest possible clearances and was,
And what
you
is
know,
his book?
trusted. It's called The Day After Roswell. Um,
Philip Corso, and I think you said this earlier, either off, before the pod or what. But he's like the modern. He was sort of the David Grush of his day, correct?
Yeah, and again, it was he waited again till near the end of his life. Actually, the year after the book was released, he died of a heart attack. A lot of people in the UFO world seem to die of heart attacks shortly after they get too loud. Um,
We don't
but so
count, right? We're not.
yeah,
We're not.
no,
We're not experts enough, right?
no,
Okay,
yeah,
good.
oh, yeah, we're going down way after Knapp
We're
and Corbell. Yeah,
exactly. They're the canaries in the coal mine.
yeah. So they
We just
so
follow their
yeah,
trail.
so he published this book and basically just said it's time everyone knew the truth about it, that he was read in on this and that was his job. He said we had stuff that looked kind of like there were these wire things, they were kind of like, but we found that if you shine a light on them the light comes out the other end. And then he heard people working on something called fiber optics. And you say, well, that sounds a little bit like this stuff I got in the drawer.
Hmm.
um, so they send it out to them and say, "Here, look at this. Maybe this will help you with the research that you're already doing." So wasn't the claim wasn't that um, that we got fiber optics from the Roswell craft, or that we got
Hmm.
computer chips from the Roswell craft. The claim was that we had objects that might steer our own researchers who were already doing that research in the right direction,
Right.
might save them some time. And that's basically what his claim was in his book, that he didn't, it wasn't like, we just took this technology and deployed it. It was that
Hmm.
we used this technology to help steer research amongst human scientists.
And that book would be The Day After
The
Roswell by
day
Philip
after
Corso.
Roswell, whereby
Um, so as our sort of, as we wrap up our
I,
primer, I think we should do this periodically. Like, I think we need to sort of
yeah,
do like an
yes,
abduction, kind of like what started the abduction thing, like do an episode about that. I think we should,
Arnie and Betty.
yeah,
Yeah.
or like Travis Walton, like just to get people up to speed And I think this is instructive and helpful, honestly, for me to just kind of remind, like, just
Yeah,
to go like big sort of macro focus and take the 30,000-foot view of what are sort of modern day
yeah,
Roswell, our modern day
yeah,
whistleblowers, and just be
and
aware
and
of. Yeah, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, and remind people that when you hear, "Oh, that was explained," that think more about it. Was it
Mm-hmm.
explained? What was the explanation, and does the explanation make any sense?
Yeah.
Like for example, like the Roswell explanation makes no sense. Years later, they tried to up it and say, "Oh, it was a special weather balloon. It was a mogul weather balloon. It was a top secret weather balloon," which still makes no sense.
There was somebody
'Cause
on record who said to George Knapp that it was some sort of like Russian experimental plane that crashed. I mean, they can't even get their attempts to debunk are as absurd as far more absurd than just the idea that like we're being checked out by
yeah,
another race,
no,
another
I think.
species.
Well, at one point, I think they tried to claim that it was uh, children mutilated by Nazi experiments
Hmm.
dropped from the sky
Yeah.
or
No,
dropped from
that's
high.
actually an excuse that was put out there.
Yeah,
That was one of the,
yeah.
which is
The
just
the the
terrible. That is
yeah
that
the
is
Nazi children
I don't
mutilated
even
by
know what to say.
Nazis
Yeah, I don't know what to
were
say about that.
were dropped from the air
Yeah,
to I'm not sure what the goal was.
I don't either. What, as
Yeah,
projectiles to just like the
yeah,
finishing touch of the
yeah,
torture, but
yeah.
that
And of course,
is
that's the other thing George Knapp found out when he was in Russia was that Stalin had ordered people to investigate Roswell, so it definitely
because he
wasn't
was spying
Russian.
on it because he was
Yeah,
spying
they
on it
were
because it was an
spying.
important nuclear facility.
Yeah, so they
Um,
wanted to find out what the hell happened to Roswell
yeah,
at the time.
these are places to start for those just starting
Yeah,
out to
yeah,
be UFO curious, or and is Tic Tac, Philip Corso, Roswell,
yeah,
and up to the 2017 article, and even books like this just published. Um,
yeah, and
this one's
also
called "Inside the U.S. Government Covert UFO Program: Initial Revelations." I'm not selling this. I got no stake in this, except
no.
it's pretty interesting that the Department of Defense published this book,
Hmm.
um, and scrubbed it for a year, and it's still filled with the weirdest shit you can possibly imagine. So
Yeah, and
it's not me, not you.
it's written by the two people who ran the funded top secret military research
Yeah,
funded by the U.S. government study of UFOs called
and
OSUP.
our dear friend George Knapp again. Like it's just so cool that he was so generous with his time, and that was
Yeah,
just an amazing kind of walk through recent
yeah.
history,
Oh,
and he's such a big
and
part of it.
people should also watch the News Nation has done a wonderful two-part uh, sort of celebration and exploration of George Knapp as well, which is
Yeah,
worth seeing.
is that a two-parter?
Yeah, yeah.
But not a three-parter, like
Not a
the really,
three-parter.
not like really with Tom and
Yeah,
Dave, which
no.
has outdone itself. We've outdone ourselves. This is going to be
Yeah,
hard
it's
to top, but
very
we're going to
exciting.
keep topping it.
Well, I guess we should say, well, actually, this will air after
This is
we
going to
find
air
out
after. Yeah,
George.
that we are
So
recording at
we hope
Halloween.
you've
We have
already enjoyed. We hope you've
yeah,
already
no, they've
enjoyed the
already
George
enjoyed
Knapp
George.
because they're being
Absolutely.
edited as we speak these words.
Oh yeah, they've taken it all in and been amazed and astounded, and this is hopefully we'll get to talk with them again, and
Yeah,
our buddy Jeremy, and just to refresh. You just got to, like, it's like refreshing your computer, like refresh, get rid of all the noise,
yeah,
and just take in some of the basic kind of truths here,
yeah,
um, which is
and
that we are living in some interesting fucking
yeah,
times.
yeah. This isn't crazy. It isn't fringe. It's just it's the reality we are already living in,
Hmm.
even though only about 2% of the population are aware of it at this point.
Yeah. But so this is the service we provide,
Yeah.
and we're happy to do it. But hey, look, man,
Oh,
happy
and
Halloween,
yes, and buy war bonds.
and
Um,
and buy war buns. Take care of your tummy. Stay away
I
from
will.
whatever's going
Oh.
on with you. The viewers should know you've soldiered on through
Mm.
incredible distress, as
It's
intestinal
with
distress.
it squiffy tum tum is what I call it. Bit
Squiffy.
squiffy.
I don't know what that is, but
Mhm.
I'll remember it now. Um, Dave Foley, ladies and gentlemen, under great health distress, has been here to give you the truth about
It gives me I think I have a
disclosure.
bit of a glow from it, though, I think.
I do. I think you look you're a little thinner. You could look
Mhm.
kind of have a nice,
I'm
it
hoping
works
it
for you.
lasts.
I don't know
I'm
what to
hoping it
say.
lasts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you look great. Um, Thanks all.
Thank
We'll see you again at the same bat time, same bat station. Subscribe and like
Yeah.
on our YouTube channel at Really with Tom and Dave. Please like and subscribe and send us your comments and all your nice thoughts. And if you have criticisms, keep them constructive. Um,
Mhm.
and we
Or at least clever. At least if you're gonna be abusive, be clever about it,
For sure,
you
for
know?
sure. If we
Like
miss
if
something,
yeah.
yeah,
Like
let us know. We're
If
here.
Mark Twain wanted to criticize us, I'd go, "Oh, ooh, that's witty."
I pay attention, and
Yeah.
yes, and it
Or
has to be done with crisp imagination.
yeah, like H.L. Mencken comes back from the grave to mock us.
That would be great. That'd be amazing. That would be a podcast in and of itself.
Mhm.
All right, buddy.
All right. Good to
Rock
see
and
you.
roll. Good to see
All
you,
right.
pal.
Good night,
Ciao.
everybody.